go! Larry Lepard accurately predicted this recent market crash, but also made a shocking prediction about where Bitcoin goes next. Let's get straight into this prophecy from only 8 days ago. And I want you guys to pay very close attention to what Larry predicted about Bitcoin's price after he nailed this recent market crash. Let's check out the clip.
Larry, what's going on with the price of Bitcoin?
Yeah.
And your answer was fascinating.
Yeah, so, let me just elaborate on what I think is going on. And it's probably not what Bitcoiners want to hear right now. But so I think if you look at what's going on, where we are in the movie, right? We're at the point in time where the U.S. stock market is about to roll over. It started rolling over, broke through some critical resistance. And we're in a little bit of a bounce right now, but I think we're about to have another leg down. And this is all being driven by the Trump policies, you know, the tariffs and kind of the disruption stuff he's doing. And, the market doesn't like uncertainty. There's a lot of uncertainty. So, and the market is very overvalued using any historical measure. So I believe we're about to enter a market downturn, a fairly significant one. It's kind of down 10% from the top. I think we could easily go down 20 and maybe even 30 or 40 over the next few months. And if that's the case, that's a negative liquidity event. You know, stocks get marked down and people feel less wealthy, and it's, a cyclical thing for the economy, et cetera. And so typically when that happens, all asset prices go down because people have to sell to meet margin calls, so on and so forth. And as I was saying to Nico pre-show, Bitcoin's not immune from this, sadly. It is sound money. It should be a safety bid, but it won't necessarily get a safety bid. And so I'm actually of the view that, just to cut to the chase, that we could see a lower Bitcoin price before we see a much higher Bitcoin price. And by that I mean maybe something in the high 70s, something starts with a 70, which I know is not what people want to hear. But I think it's possible. If it does happen, I don't think it'll last for long. And the reason I say that is that the Federal Reserve has already started to indicate they're going to loosen. They reduce the amount of quantitative tightening that they are doing from 25 billion a month to 5 billion a month. That's a big cut, and a concession, I think, on the part of Powell to help Trump out. And I think that when the market rolls over the way we're describing, it won't be long until the economy and employment and all the other indicators start to indicate softness too. And even though they haven't really licked inflation, they're going to look beyond that and just say, well, okay, time to get more aggressive about cutting, and they're going to cut. And when that happens, then Bitcoin's going to go the other way, and it's because that, in my view, will be the prelude to what will ultimately be coming, which of course is the name of the book, The Big Print. And so, as I said to Nico, I also think by the end of the year, Bitcoin's going to be at 140 to 250. So that's December. But I guess the point I'm trying to make is, and this is just a guess, I mean, I've been wrong a lot, probably be wrong about this too, but you have to, when you're a macro guy and you're making investments, you're managing a fund, you got to try to make your best estimate of what's going to happen. And I think the stock market's in trouble, and I think that right now there's a lot of correlation between the high-tech stocks and Bitcoin. I think this cycle will break that correlation, that this will be the time when the stock market will roll over, and they will come with liquidity to try and prevent the downturn from occurring, and the stocks will ignore it.
All right, everybody. And Larry got that absolutely 100% right. That was only 8 days ago, backstage at the Mining Disrupt conference in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. And exactly what he predicted in regards to the market is happening. Completely red. I mean, the S&P is literally falling off a cliff if you look at the chart. And what Larry said regarding the decoupling is actually happening. The Bitcoin price is actually holding strong despite one of the worst days in the S&P. So, I mean, this is crazy, bro. This was prophetic. Is Larry Lepard the new Lisan Al-Gaib? Josh Mandel held the title for a couple of weeks, and now it could be a couple of days, and now it's Larry Lepard. And we have a little sneak peek for you guys. We're actually going to be interviewing Larry Lepard here at the BitBlockBoom conference. Dante is going to be having that interview. So we're going to have another update for you guys from the new prophet, because he hit the nail on the absolute head here. But again, what's really interesting to me, I was thinking Bitcoin was going to fall off a cliff. Like the fact that Bitcoin is holding strong, like Bitcoin historically has been treated like a risk-on asset. So it should be falling off the cliff with the S&P, but that's clearly what's not happening. Anyways, Opti, what's your take on all this, bro?
Yeah, well, shouts out to Larry, and honestly, shouts out to him in that clip because he was very humble about it. I know he kind of gets a lot of trash talking on Twitter. They call him a doomer all the time, and he's like, "Look, as a macro guy, you make predictions. You may be wrong. You got to, eat that humble pie when you're wrong. But hey, a week ago, we didn't really know what was going to take place with all these tariffs. Obviously, now in hindsight, we know what happened. There's been global chaos in all markets. NASDAQ's down this morning, worse than it was yesterday. We're seeing even gold's kind of, not hitting all-time high right now. So we're seeing that there is a lot of uncertainty in the markets, but the biggest signal here is essentially what Nico just said. Bitcoin is holding very strong. It's super resilient right now. I know when we were watching the speech the other day, we saw it go up to about 87, almost 88, and then it went down to 81. But today it's at like 83. In the face of all this economic uncertainty being caused by tariffs, I think Bitcoin is holding on very, very strong. I think that is the silver lining right now. And maybe this is the greater trend we've been thinking was going to play out in a long time. The tariffs are causing a lot of economic uncertainty, but now maybe people are starting to understand that Bitcoin isn't necessarily that risk on asset that they thought it was. It might in fact be that risk off asset. And the fact that it is holding this strong in the face of literally the worst, I think Rustin and I were talking about this morning. It was all on CNBC, the worst 2-day market downturn since 2020. And Bitcoin didn't dump this time. So we may not be seeing a black swan moment like we saw in 2020. This may be, I don't know if you say it the opposite way, like a white swan moment here where Bitcoin is acting very, very well right now. And I know, like Larry was saying, hey, this is probably not what Bitcoiners want to hear. He's kind of saying maybe it goes to 75K, but by the end of the year, it might or probably will go into the mid 6 figures. I know Arthur Hayes is kind of saying something similar. We covered that on Monday. He said, look, I think it might go down to 76K, but I think shortly after it'll go into, 200K territory. And he's kind of leaning more towards 200K territory. So what do we really know? Obviously, we're reading tea leaves here, but it is absolutely incredible that Larry Lepard kind of, hit the ball out of the park on this prediction. And I think it really goes to, once you understand Bitcoin fundamentals, and of course, now we're all macro experts because we have to be, you kind of see the writing on the wall and you're seeing, hey, things are essentially playing out how we've been talking about all week. We're seeing this war between Scott Bessent and Jay Powell. It seems like Powell is kind of getting put in his place. And, the 10-year treasury is down under 4%. And if you watch that whole clip, Larry said there's 4 things that he watches. He watches the price of Bitcoin, the price of gold, the price of the NASDAQ, and then, of course, the 10-year treasury bond yield. And most of those things are in the red, and Bitcoin is holding very solid right now. So I would say it's a lot of bullish indicators in Bitcoin's favor. Obviously, we want to see the Bitcoin price rip because, of course, we're stupidly bullish on Bitcoin always. But I think in the face of all the economic uncertainty, Bitcoin is holding up very strong. And this tariff stuff is a big deal right now. And we're seeing that there is a lot of fear in the markets. And I mean, yesterday we were in a Lyft and even our Lyft drivers were talking about what's going on in the markets. So we're almost, I don't want to say we're at the like Shoeshine Boy being bullish on Bitcoin, but we are at the Shoeshine Boy talking about the global markets because it's that impactful. So it seems like Bitcoin is just, I don't know, I would say it's absolutely doing an incredible job right now. I'm just happy I'm a Bitcoiner considering everyone else is freaking out.
100%. I mean, it's crazy that, again, Bitcoin is not acting like a risk on asset. People are using it. I mean, this is uncharted territory right now. Again, I think Trump's in the driver's seat. I think Trump is actively trying to force the hand of the Fed to change from that QT stance to that QE stance. And during the news segment, we're actually going to do a little bit of a deep dive. We have a theory. We're speculating here. There's no way to confirm this for sure. But is Trump trying to end the Fed altogether? I mean, we have a couple of clips that we have compiled, and it makes a very strong case that that is his goal. I don't think from an Overton window perspective, that is something that he can publicly say, but there is a very famous clip going around a couple days ago of Elon Musk essentially being asked by a member of the crowd. He was actively campaigning, I think it was in Wisconsin, and he was asked like, you know, Elon, what do you think about the Fed? And then as a joke, Elon was like, and the Fed, and the Fed. And then he ended the conversation with essentially making the case that, hey, look, like, you know, he started talking about waste and he started talking about Doge, right? So we've been making the case that, look, even if Doge gets some of this crazy deficit spending under control, there's still going to be a tremendous amount of waste because it's not addressing the root cause. And we're just one administration away from essentially reversing all the work that Doge has done. The root cause of all this is the central bank of the United States. It is the Federal Reserve. It's the ability for the government to create money for free that everyone else has to work for. All the things that are happening in government right now with all these inefficiencies, that is the root cause. And if you don't address the root cause, the problem is going to continue repeating. Not only repeating, it's going to continue to get worse. So we're going to be talking about this. We have a bunch of clips compiled to make the case for you guys. I mean, Trump might be playing 3D, 4D chess right now. His goal might be to end the Federal Reserve. Once you guys see these clips towards the middle of the show, I mean, they make a very, very strong argument of just that. But today's headline is Bitcoin is holding strong while the market, the S&P, continues to melt down. Again, this was predicted by Larry Lepard 8 days ago. We just played you guys the clip. We're going to get you guys a new interview regarding Larry's current thoughts at the BitBlockBoom conference. I think tomorrow that's going to be happening. So guys, it's going to be a great show. We have tons to cover. We also have a clip of you guys of Preston Pysh talking about essentially what's going on with Bitcoin, how Bitcoin is essentially changing the whole global macroeconomic landscape. It's forcing people to, it's forcing countries, it's forcing nation states, it's forcing economies to kind of change their outlook because Bitcoin exists. And again, you don't change Bitcoin, Bitcoin changes you. Guys, this is going to be a great show. If you guys are enjoying it so far, 1,200 of you guys watching live between YouTube and X. Make sure to smash that like button. I want to give a shout out to the live chat and appreciate the super chat from Vault Dweller. Thank you for the $2. So guys, smash that like button if you guys are enjoying today's show. We still have a ton of content to get to. We'll be right back. We're going to hit the numbers segment. I want to tell you guys about our sponsor, Stamp Seed. Is your Bitcoin in cold storage really secure? Are your seed words really secure? Stamp Seed's do-it-yourself kit has everything you'll need to hammer your seed words into commercial-grade titanium plates instead of writing them down on paper. Don't do that. Paper sucks. You want to literally stamp your seed into this plate of titanium. Your words are actually stamped into the metal plate with this hammer. So once your words are in, they aren't going anywhere. No risk of the plate breaking apart and your pieces falling everywhere. Titanium stamp seeds will survive nearly triple the heat produced by a house fire. They are also crush-proof, waterproof, non-corrosive, and most importantly, because this is generational wealth, time-proof. All things that paper is not, allowing you to hodl your Bitcoin for the long haul. I mean, here is the plate that they crushed. They put in water, they put a blowtorch to it, and as you can see, the words have survived. Stamp your seed on Stamp Seed. And you can use promo code SIMPLY to get 15% off anything on their store. Head over to stampseed.com today. All right, everybody, we are back. Let's jump straight into today's numbers. We have tons to talk about. Here we go. At the time of recording, the Bitcoin price is $83,120. Block height, 890,916. Sats per dollar, 1,203. Market cap, 1.65 trillion. Bitcoin versus gold market cap, 7.72%. Percentage issued, 94.5%. Decline from all-time high, negative 23.9%. Realized monetary inflation, 0.88%. Anyways, I have a clip for you guys from the BTC session show. Preston Pysh has some thoughts regarding the whole fiat system, Bitcoin. I thought it was really interesting. I'm going to play it for you guys, and then me and Opti will discuss.
When I look at everything that's happening right now, they're being forced, traditional finance, fiat, all of it, they're being forced to play our game, is all there is to it. There's going to be a lot of confusion. This is going to be very messy. No one ever thought this was going to be very simple. And just like the individual, when they come into this space and they get all excited and they go out and they buy a bunch of this coin, that coin, and they really don't even understand what it's all about. You see that then happen at an organizational level. And now you're literally watching it happen at a nation state level. And it shouldn't surprise anybody, because at the very top of a nation is a leader and a person who's calling the shots, and their whole staff is falling in underneath of them, and they're propagating these messages. And so sometimes you see in El Salvador where somebody just kind of gets it right out of the gate. They're orange pilled. They understand why Bitcoin's very different, and you get that leadership that's all underneath of that. And you saw that, in style. You saw this also with MicroStrategy, with Michael coming in, and he's a hardcore Bitcoiner. The only thing he buys is Bitcoin. You might see that approach. You might not see that approach. I would argue in the US, where we came from in the past administration and what they were trying to do with a crypto army to defeat it and put all these things in place. I mean, Gary Gensler was a puppet, trying everything to stop the SAB 121 as an example. All of those things, they're all being reversed and turned inside out. And so as I'm looking at this, why am I bullish? Well, I'm bullish because they're being forced to play our game. And when I look at like SAB 121, all of these banks, they're going to come into this hardcore. They're going to come into this. Okay. And if you think you're going to turn that off after 4 years, after they get totally ingrained into this ecosystem, you're totally kidding yourself. Now, are there going to be a lot of mistakes? Well, I hope not. I'm trying to do everything I can, writing different articles talking about rehypothecation and the risks that are associated with that being pulled back and whatnot. But we got to try the best we can, and it's an education burden. And I'm super, holy crap, am I bullish going into this year? But I also want to take all the lessons we've learned for the past decade and a half and try to apply that and try to teach people the best we can, so that we don't keep repeating the same mistakes. And my God, there's a lot of mistakes that we've made or seen in the past that I think we can learn from.
Today's Bullish Bit was brought to you by CoinKite, makers of...
Sorry about that, the end. Anyways, Opti, what's your take? I mean, Preston Pysh dropping the wisdom on why are we bullish? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, well, obviously, I love Preston Pysh's analysis on all things stock market. I think he's been one of the, and I hate to use it, thought leaders in the Bitcoin space who's been nailing a lot of this stuff. And I find it very interesting. A lot of us Bitcoiners, we do kind of get ahead of our skis at times. When we talk about Bitcoin, because we fundamentally have our biases being confirmed constantly. We think Bitcoin is the best asset, the best money in the world to hold. And a lot of times we forget just how tiny the Bitcoin market is in general compared to other global assets. But as Preston Pysh is kind of laying out, we're starting to see that every other institutional asset manager, basically everything in the world right now that has to do with capital, is starting to play our game. And I love how he said it. It's like they're being forced to play our game. And of course, by that, we're talking about the Bitcoin game: hard cap supply, censorship resistant, permissionless network, 24/7 global liquidity. And we're starting to see that there is this transition era that we're going through. Yes, Bitcoin is maturing. Yes, we're entering a new paradigm, but it's starting to seem like the leaders of the world, or the leaders of capital, capital in the world, whether it's the Larry Finks, the Donald Trumps, or everyone around the world, is starting to have to take a very serious look into Bitcoin. And I think that's what Preston Pysh is laying out there. Obviously, he can say it a lot better than I can, but we're starting to see that a new game is starting to kind of proliferate right now. And hey, as we know the meme, as Max Kaiser's been saying forever on every show he's ever been on, is you can't change Bitcoin. Bitcoin changes you. Now, of course, Bitcoin is tiny right now. So are we going to see Bitcoin instantaneously change traditional finance? Obviously, no. We've been doing this for about 16 years in the Bitcoin space. So who knows how long this next transition phase is going to be, whether it's, by the end of the Trump administration, whether it's 2 cycles from now. But we're starting to see that people are waking up to the proof of work mechanisms that is Bitcoin in every aspects of life. I've been saying this for a long time on the show. Proof of work is a lifestyle. It's not just, how mining works. You have to put in the work. You have to adjust to how proof of work works. And it seems like we might be moving away from a fiat proof of stake system into a Bitcoin proof of work system. Obviously, it's going to take a long drawn out time here. It's not going to be easy, but I do think we are starting to see the beginning of people capitulating and bending the knee towards Bitcoin. It's not even because they want to, it's because they have to. Look at the markets today and look at the markets yesterday. People are freaking out right now. So they have to adjust their worldview. And obviously, as a Bitcoiner, we're like, we have the best worldview. We're able to predict where the future is going. We're able to predict where the ball is going. And we are just kind of waiting at the finish line. Obviously, I'm not going to go full pod comp on you, Nico, and say that Bitcoin has already won, but we are ahead of the curve, and we're just seeing everyone kind of start to realize what the hell is going on. And somehow 45 IQ Bitcoiners on YouTube are like, guys, it's pretty simple. We've been telling you all week what is going on, and now it seems to be playing out. The dominoes are falling, and I think Preston Pysh is right. The world is being forced to adopt Bitcoin. They're being forced to adopt our game, and you just love to see it.
100%. And anyone who doesn't have Bitcoin is going to be left behind. I think that is clear as day. And really exciting times, man, we're heading in. Like, even despite the market just dropping like crazy in the S&P, Bitcoin is holding strong. Again, the U.S. government has every intent to, with this current administration, to acquire more Bitcoin. I mean, this is pretty crazy. This is going to be a crazy fourth turning. I think the next 4 years, we're going to see some crazy events that we've never seen in world history before. I think Breedlove's thesis was that essentially at the end of this fourth turning, people are going to discover the answer to what is money. I think the world is slowly awakening to that, the global consciousness. And of course, all roads lead to Bitcoin. Guys, stay tuned, because during the news segment, I'm going to be making the case as to why the Trump administration possibly has the intent to end the Federal Reserve. There's a lot of things that he has said that, makes you question. And again, I'm not the only one saying this. A lot of people are also coming to this theory as well. So I'm going to be laying out the case for you guys. Also, it seems like there's currently some politics happening between the Fed that's supposed to be independent. But if the Fed is independent, who tells the Fed what to do, right? Like, we always hear about a danger to democracy. We always hear about democracy this, democracy that. The Fed isn't democratically elected. The Fed is appointed, right? So, that I find quite interesting, because it's like we elect the president, but the president isn't the one making the decisions about the money. What's going on here, right? The curtain, I think, is being revealed. I think slowly but surely the Overton window is shifting. And I think people at the end of the day, when they're going to come to the conclusion that the Fed is the sole cause for a lot of the economic woes that people are going through. I think people are feeling the wealth inequality. I think people are feeling the hurt of not being able to afford housing. I think people are feeling the hurt of not being able to afford rent. The millennial and Gen Z generations were the first generations that are poorer than our parents, right? Like that's absolutely crazy, right? But what is the root cause? The root cause is broken money. The root cause is the ability for the governments to just create money for free that everyone else has to work for. Inflation is breaking the world. This is the whole basis of Larry's book, The Big Print. But Bitcoin fixes this, and you don't have to wait for an election. You don't have to wait for a president. You can start adopting the Bitcoin standard today and start benefiting from Bitcoin's number go up technology. It provides an oasis in a sea of inflation. Anyways, everybody, we're going to get to news. We have tons to talk about. Guys, smash that like button. Help us break 150 likes within the first hour of the show. Smash that like button. It really, really helps with the algos. Guys, we'll be right back. We're going to hit the news segment. Let's check it out. I want to give a shout out to our sponsor, Casa. Bitcoin security matters, but managing private keys can sometimes be complicated, especially multi-sig. What if you can secure your Bitcoin without worrying about losing a seed phrase or giving up custody? With Casa, you can completely control your Bitcoin with multi-key security, so even if one key is lost or stolen, your funds stay safe. No single point of failure, no stress. That's what I absolutely love about these guys. They make taking Bitcoin into self-custody incredibly easy with their best in industry user experience through their app. I've been personally recommending Casa for years now to my friends and family because they will get all the benefits of multi-key self-custody security without the hassle of having to learn complicated UI. And if you're thinking of one day passing on your Bitcoin to the next generation, their inheritance plan has you covered. Also, if you're a business looking to add Bitcoin to your treasury, do it the secure way with Casa for Business. To get started, go to casa.io today and get 5% off Casa Standard or Casa Premium with promo code SIMPLY. Need liquidity without having to sell your Bitcoin? For more than 6 years now, Ledn has been the trusted choice for Bitcoin-backed lending with transparency, security, and trust at their core. I absolutely love these guys, and I personally have not only an account with them, but also a loan. And some of the key features that I love about Ledn is the fact that there are no monthly payments. You pay at the end of the term. You also have the ability to roll over the loan as well, and you can pay it back whenever you want. Essentially what they do is that they help their clients unlock the liquidity of their BTC, allowing you to hodl while still accessing the wealth of your Bitcoin. They've been battle tested with their focus on transparency, security, and trust, allowing them to build a proven track record of client success and security, helping tens of thousands of clients harness the value of their digital assets with confidence and peace of mind. Learn more about what your BTC can do for you. Check out ledn.io today. All right, everybody, we are back. All right, guys, bear with me because this is a bit of a rabbit hole. First, I'm going to play you guys this clip from Matt Gaetz' show. Again, we aren't the only ones that are coming to this conclusion. And what is that conclusion? That conclusion is, I believe, Trump wants to end the Fed, but he can't overtly say it. So bear with me. Right, and we always talk about the Overton window, and you guys make fun of me, but I'm gonna define what it is. So the Overton window is the acceptable window of discourse. If you talk about a subject that's outside of the Overton window, you get othered. You get considered a radical. It seems crazy to most people. So our job as Bitcoiners is to move that Overton window, and we've done that tremendously. Elon has been mentioning on X all the time. He's like, the Overton window has shattered because of how many things have happened in the last year and a half, 2 years, right? So the disintermediation of information completely happened, right? The vast majority of people now, not the vast majority, but the majority of people now get their news on social media, and they don't get their news on legacy media. If you get your news on social media, you live in a completely different world than people that live in the get their news from legacy media. It's a completely different reality, right? So again, more people are awakening, more people are doing their own research, more people are getting their information from independent media sources. And in the process, they're waking up to reality. But again, if you're a politician, you can't just say things that seem radical because, again, that gives ammunition to your political opponents, and it also reveals what your next move is. So instead of judging people on what they say, judge people based on their actions. So that's what we're going to focus on today. Now, again, this is speculation. We're making a theory for you guys. We're making the case for you guys. And then let us know what you guys think. Let us know down in the comments if you guys believe we're seeing things that are not there. So first, let's play this clip from the Matt Gaetz podcast, and then we'll talk about it.
Tyler, there was also this order that came out stopping the creation of a central bank digital currency. What do you make of that?
So I was just talking to Josh about this. We've been actually talking about it all day. I've been making videos about it all day. And what it tells me is that, and this could be up for debate, but maybe Trump's looking to end the Fed or at least have some control over the Fed. And we haven't had that in a long time. And I know it's a very bold statement, but that's what it's looking like to me. One of the big things Josh just brought up, tokenization, that's going to be massive as well. So, you know, one of the other biggest things is the regulation side of it, right? When I think about this is a huge step towards freedom of money, freedom of commerce that we haven't had in so long, right? And with the Fed coming in and saying, or with Trump saying to the Fed, you're not coming in, you're not going to be part of this. I mean, he literally said that. It's not going to be for the Fed, it's not going to be for the FDIC. You know, these groups that we're forming, you're not allowed access. And it tells me that he's trying to decentralize our money. And in turn, that's going to decentralize everything that we're doing from
So think about what he said for a second, right? So decentralize the system. So the Fed, essentially Trump stopped the Fed from being involved in Bitcoin and crypto from a regulatory perspective. He also completely stopped what I believe is the only future for central banks, the central bank digital currency. In his executive order, he explicitly forbade the United States government from launching a central bank digital currency. Now, if you take a look at his strategy with the tariffs, and you take a look at what Howard Lupnick is saying, Howard Lupnick said in an interview that essentially the goal is to end income tax for anyone who's not making anyone who's making 150K or below, they get to pay no income tax. But the only way that Trump is able to do that, again, he can't overtly do this. He's telling you his goal, but the only way he's able to do that is to replace that revenue with a different form of revenue, which is what the tariffs are all about. This is why he continues to talk about the tariffs. He references the late 1800s. He's basically said that was one of the wealthiest moments in American history. We had so much money, we didn't know what to do with it. And the reason that the US government was so well funded was because of the tariffs. So again, he's not directly saying, okay, let's end the income tax via executive order. He's saying, let's replace the income tax with another form of revenue. I think he might be doing the same thing with the Federal Reserve. But again, it's not what he's saying overtly, it's with his actions. So again, he's taking away the Fed's ability to launch a central bank digital currency. He said, no, that's not going to happen in the United States. He's taking out the Federal Reserve from the regulatory decisions about the Bitcoin and crypto industry. Remember, last year, we found out multiple times. I had Caitlin Long on the show, and she explicitly told us about the Fed's hostility towards a lot of these crypto Bitcoin friendly banks, specifically Custodia Bank that Caitlin Long was applying for a federal banking charter, which would allow her to be competitive with other banks. The Fed slow walked her. She needed the approval of the Fed to get that banking charter. With Trump's coming in and says, no, you don't even need approval of we're going to separate that, right? So again, don't pay attention to what they're saying. Pay attention to what their actions. Now, take a look at this clip from so-called Liberation Day. That's what Trump called it. That's not what we called it. He mentions a very specific year. That year is 1913. In 1913, two things happened: the introduction of the income tax and the establishment of the Federal Reserve Bank. Let's check out the clip.
1789 to 1913, we were a tariff-backed nation, and the United States was proportionately the wealthiest it has ever been. So wealthy, in fact, that in the 1880s, they established a commission to decide what they were going to do with the vast sums of money they were collecting. We were collecting so much money so fast, we didn't know what to do with it. Isn't that a nice problem to have? What do you think, Marco? Good problem? Marco would love that problem. But we don't have that problem anymore, but we're not going to have it very much longer, I will tell you. But they collected so much money, they actually formed a commission to determine what they were going to do with the money, who they were going to give it to, and how much. Then in 1913, for reasons unknown to mankind, they established the income tax so that citizens, rather than foreign countries, would start paying the money necessary to run our government. Then in 1929, it all came to a very abrupt end with the Great Depression, and it would have never happened if they had stayed with the tariff policy.
So in 1913, the establishment of the Federal Reserve. The whole point of the Federal Reserve was to essentially stabilize markets, right? Make sure that unemployment is low, make sure that inflation is low. The two biggest depressions and recessions in American history have happened under central banking. The 1930s, and of course, the Great Recession that happened in 2008, which led to the creation of Bitcoin. Again, all of this is connected, right? And I love his answer, his response, for reasons unknown, right? Of course he knows the reasons. Of course he knows the reasons. But perhaps the reasons are outside of the Overton window. Now, again, I would say the good news is that I think people are waking up. Here is Elon during a campaign, and someone from the audience explicitly asks him about the Federal Reserve. Take a look at Elon's answer. It's extremely important that you guys pay attention, because Elon trollingly says, and the Fed, but he ends up talking about wastes. And this is what we've been saying. The waste is enabled by the central banks. The central banks is what allows the waste to happen. Because if you don't have a central bank, if you don't have a money printer, the only form of revenue the government has is via direct taxation. And you could only make that so high before people start to get pissed off. But the reason that people don't notice that they're getting taxed in two different ways is because it's a very insidious tax. The actual number in your bank account stays the same. So you don't realize that your purchasing power decreases. And make no mistake, the cause of inflation, the cause of monetary debasement is not the weather. It's not what's happening in Ukraine. It's not, whatever reason they've given us every single reason at this point. It's not any of those things. It is literally the government printing money. And remember, the US government has a $2 trillion deficit year over year. How are they able to spend more money every single year than they collect in tax revenue? They're able to do that because they're able to print the difference. And people, our job as Bitcoiners is to wake up people to that reality, because all roads lead to Bitcoin. Bitcoin fixes this. Remember, every single block that Bitcoin survives continues to exist. It proves that money can exist without inflation. I show you guys this number all the time in Clark Moody's dashboard. And I pointed out on the very bottom, right? When me and Opti started covering the realized monetary inflation of Bitcoin, it was at roughly 3 or 4%. We've been covering this stat for you guys for about like a year and a half, 2 years now. And it's continued to go down. It's at 0.88%. It's going to go down to 0.5. It's going to go down to 0.1. It's going to go down to 0.2. Even if central banks get to that magic 2% number, Bitcoin's inflation rate is still lower. Bitcoin proves that money can exist without inflation. And remember what NVK said on yesterday's show, and it's something really important for you guys to remember. If you have any type of wealth or any type of savings, you are forced to invest just to maintain your purchasing power. What if you're a painter? What if you are a plumber? What if you're a doctor? Why do you have to learn how to invest just to live? This is the problem that Bitcoin fixes. All Bitcoiners are advocating for is live your life, live below your means, save in Bitcoin, and you can get by. We live in an upside down world because of fiat, because of central banks. And I think Trump and Elon know this. I think Howard Lupnick knows this. Remember, Howard Lupnick is a Bitcoiner. Anyways, let's check out the clip from Elon.
On behalf of America, for the idiots you have to deal with for what you're doing for us to improve our country. Second of all, my question is, what is your opinion on the Federal Reserve, and do you have any intentions of doing anything with them?
And the Fed. Yeah. I don't know. I always wanted to say that, you know. But I mean, I think there's like 20,000 people that work at the Fed. Seems pretty high. It's like there's a lot of people that work at the Fed, and it seems like, why do we have so many people at the Fed, and what do they do? And you know, sometimes I wonder which one would win. You know, the federal for interest rates, the board of the Federal Reserve, or a magic 8-ball. And I'm like, I think the magic 8-ball might win. You know. So then I'm like, well, Magic 8 Ball is a lot cheaper. So, you know, it's like you shake it, it says, check back again later. I'm like, okay. Same thing. But I think what really matters is that government spending is not far in excess of government revenue. That's a fundamental issue that we have, where we have a deficit of $2 trillion, and we have interest payments that now exceed the entire budget of the military. In fact, that was a big wake-up call for me, was when the amount of money that we pay in national debt interest exceeded the Defense Department budget. I'm like, Defense Department budget is very big, and interest is higher than that and climbing. That's a disaster. You know, so the very simple, straightforward goal of the Doge team is to get rid of waste and fraud. It's mostly waste. It's or depending on how, you know, I'd say it's probably 80% waste, 20% fraud.
All right, everybody. So let's break it down. There's a lot of things that he said there. First of all, he said, listen, a magic 8-ball will do a better job at essentially picking interest rates than the Fed. 20,000 people work at the Fed. What do those people do? Right? Like, again, and then he trollingly said, like, I think to cover like how he actually felt, like, end the Fed, you know, like he said it as a joke, but then he made the argument as to, like, he was basically saying this is obsolete. And then at the end, he talked about waste. I mean, did he? I mean, he did explicitly say it. He said it jokingly, I think, to cover, you know, because Elon's in the headline. Anything he does is in the headlines these days. But I don't know. I don't know how much of a stronger case we can make for you guys. Trump mentions 1913. Elon explicitly says, and the Fed says the interest rate, that 8-ball could do a better job at picking the interest rates. Talks about waste. Talks about 22,000 people working there. I mean, I think it's clear as day. But I think they're using the same strategy that they're doing with attempting to end the income tax. I don't think they can do it overtly. I think they have to prove that the system can function without those things. And I think for the income tax, he's trying to do it with the tariffs. And I think with the Fed, he might be able to do it with Bitcoin. He might be able to. But again, I might not be seeing something that's actually there. But this is pretty explicit. Like, and again, I'm not the only one to reach this conclusion. I played you guys a clip from the Matt Gaetz podcast. Why is Trump taking out the Fed from Bitcoin and crypto regulation? Why, in the same executive order regarding Bitcoin, or digital assets, did he explicitly say that he forbids the federal government for launching a central bank digital currency? Again, all you have to do is pay attention and connect the dots, right? And our boy G Money, right, has been saying this for about 2 years now. Me and Opti have been
Probably longer.
We've been looking at him like, there's no way. I think he's wrong. But I mean, all things point to something. Oh, and I forgot to mention, right now, there's a heated political battle between the two institutions, or the executive branch and the Federal Reserve. I'll show it to you guys. So this is Trump's Truth Social post from this morning at 10 a.m. He said, this would be a perfect time for Fed Chairman Jerome Powell to cut interest rates. He is always late, but he can now change his image, and quickly. Energy prices are down, interest rates are down, inflation is down, even eggs are down 69%. That's hilarious. And jobs are up all within 2 months. A big win for America. Cut interest rates, Jerome. Stop playing politics. What's really interesting is Fed Chair Jerome Powell says tariffs will raise inflation in the coming quarters. And remember, this gives him the air cover to keep rates high. Because, again, the whole point of keeping rates high is to lower inflation. And he's saying, hey, look, inflation, with the tariffs, inflation is up, you know? So this is a game of chicken. This is politics. But this is crazy to me, because if you see it on its head, we are supposed to be living in a democracy. We hear that all the time. Democracy this, democracy that, democracy this. Nobody elected Jerome Powell. He was appointed. The American people elected Trump. Whether you disagree with him or not, that's democracy, right? The American people elected the senators. American people elected the congressmen and women. The Fed is acting like an independent entity with no democratic check. That's weird. That's really strange. That's very effing strange. I don't know what else to say about that, right? So again, like, isn't the president supposed to be, you know, the commander in chief, the one leading the country? And he has to essentially tell someone who's appointed, like, hey, lower the interest rates. And then he's playing politics. And then if you take a look at the article that was released by Arthur Hayes explicitly said, hey, you know, Powell explicitly tried to get Kamala elected, like politically, right? So again, it's supposed to be an independent, you know, institution, entity, whatever you want to call it. It's not supposed to be political, but it's been acting political. I don't know what else to say. You know, I don't know what else to say. Listen, Bitcoin exposes incentives. I think incentives are being exposed. I think the Fed has to end. I think this conversation of, you know, Bitcoin strategic reserve, it's great, fine. The Overton window is moving, but I think Bitcoiners should not lose the eye on the prize. I think Bitcoiners should not forget what the end goal is here. The end goal here is to end the tyranny of central banking. That is the goal. We have the tool. The tool is Bitcoin. It's very difficult to co-opt, especially if a lot of individuals are taking self-custody, but we should keep our eye on the prize. The prize is end the Fed. End the Fed. End the Fed. Anyways, if you guys are enjoying today's live show, 2,300 of you guys watching live, make sure to smash that like button. Currently, we're at 174 likes. If you guys are enjoying the show, make sure to smash that like button. Help us break 250 likes. I see someone in the chat. Nico is pissed. You're right that I'm pissed. You're right that I'm pissed. Our generation got the short end of the stick because of the Fed, right? Look at what happened in 2008. No significant banker went to jail for what happened in 2008. What happened in 2008 was a crime. Main Street bailed out Wall Street, and no central banker paid the paid the price. In fact, they got bailed out by the government. You want to know why, if you're a millennial or Gen Z, you cannot afford a house? You guys want to know why? You guys want to know the reason? That's the reason, because of what happened in 2008. But that was only enabled because the Federal Reserve exists. That was only enabled because central banking exists. Remember what is in the Genesis block. Chancellor on the brink of the second bailout for banks. This is why Bitcoin was invented. This is why Bitcoin exists. So yes, number go up. Yes, the ETFs are great. Yes, oh my God, strategic Bitcoin reserve, kumbaya, we're all going to get rich. We are here for the revolution. We are here because we want the world to be better for our children and the future generations. And if that world is a future of central banking, it's going to be a future of slavery, nihilism, and endless wars. If we want a future of Bitcoin, it's going to be a future of peace, prosperity, opportunity for all. So end the Fed. And I think Trump, whether he's actively or consciously doing it, the silver lining is at least he's moving the Overton window. At least he's referencing the year that this institution was established, 1913. Let's keep going down that rabbit hole. I used to say we haven't won until we get a central bank, a Bitcoiner in the White House. I used to say that. I said, so listen, if we get a pro-Bitcoin president in the White House, we won. If we get a president that frees Ross, we won. I used to say that. And we got that. And maybe I'm getting a little bit greedy, but we need a Bitcoiner in the White House that says, and the Fed. That's what we need next. So Trump is good. He's done a lot of good things for Bitcoin, but we got to continue moving that mother effing Overton window until you have the US president looking at a camera and telling the American people that the reason they're all poor and they can't afford things is because of the Federal Reserve. That's what we need. That's what's actually going to fix things. So until that happens, it's okay. It's okay. You can save and earn in Bitcoin and you'll be protected from the monetary debasement. Anyways, my rant and my ramble is over. I wanted to give you guys a little bit of Nico Jones on Friday, like we did in the OG Simply Bitcoin days. Opti, what's your take on all this, brother?
Well, first off, Nico Jones is back. It's been a while. It's been a while since Nico Jones has been on the show. I think we finally got him back. He was hibernating during the bear market, but the kid is back. Honestly, before I kind of, give my take, Nico nailed it. So, but I do want to mention, like this morning while we were all sitting here, we're in Dallas, Airbnb, the whole Simply Bitcoin team is sitting here, and we were watching CNBC and we're seeing the bloody markets. We're seeing Bitcoin kind of, hold itself really well. And the vibe that Nico just put out is the vibe we had here in the morning. And we were just sitting here like, man, I'm finally feeling excited again. It's been a rough year or two here in the Bitcoin space where we have so much bullish news. And right now, I think we're all more bullish on things happening outside of Bitcoin and then just how strong Bitcoin is reacting. And we're all sitting here watching the news. Rustin was losing. You guys watch Rustin's show? He was doing that just here chilling with us. He was losing his mind. He's losing his mind on the back end right now. And I think we're all getting more and more excited considering the economic landscape.
Breaking news. Trump, Rustin is going to pull up a chair and Rustin, pull up a chair, bro. Pull up a chair, Rustin. Get in here, Rustin. Get in here, bro. So anyways, Opti, what were you saying?
I got sidetracked. I'm trying to find what Rustin just sent us. All right, let me see. Rustin, what are you sending? What are we looking for?
We got
Oh,
breaking.
it's in the war room.
We
It's
got
in the war
breaking.
room.
We
Okay.
got breaking news from one of the
Okay, I got
latest
it. I
interviews
got it.
with Scott Bessent, the U.S. Treasury Secretary. Bitcoin
I got it.
is becoming a store of value. It's an hour-long clip.
Oh, okay. We're not
Bitcoin
playing
is
that.
becoming a store of value. The Treasury Secretary on one of the most watched shows on the face of the planet, the Tucker Carlson show, just said, quote, Bitcoin is becoming a store of value. So again, I'm trying to point, and our boy Rustin actually knows a lot of things about Scott Bessent. Rustin, let's fill in the audience, bro.
Yesterday we dove into Bessent quite a bit. I've been sitting on this, and being kind of a regarded person like myself, I need someone kind of intelligent to support my ideas. And Marty Bent basically came out and said what I've been telling Nico for the past couple of months here on Bessent, and all the moves, the strategery, the absolute savagery of this man. If you know his background, and if you understand what Bitcoin is and how it could work and how you could use it as a macro weapon against your enemies, I don't know, man. This stuff is, and I just saw another thing. If we look at the movement of Bitcoin today against the S&P dropping further, a little bit of a decoupling, but obviously there are massive Bitcoin buyers out there right now. That's why we're at 83 and everything else is getting absolutely destroyed. They are subtly telegraphing some major moves here, I think, Nico. And I think you've just been nailing. I've been listening the whole time. You guys are killing it. And this Bessent news is big. I can't wait to dive into that interview, because I think it's just crazy. We were talking about how the tariffs were going to be used not just as tariff, but also as a weapon to force free trade. And you see some countries already bending the knee there. And where Bitcoin fits in to this, everyone's looking for that neutral monetary system. And it feels like they're pushing everyone in this direction.
100%. I mean, it's crazy. It's cryptic though, Rustin. It's cryptic because they're not explicitly saying these things, but for anyone who's paying attention and you start connecting the dots, it's very clear what their intent is. What was one of the most savage things that Bessent said? You showed me the clip. I think it was
just where he said, sounds like a Mag 7 problem.
Yeah, but there was something else. I think it was Dante that played the clip this morning.
So would that be you elevate the situation, escalate to de-escalate?
Yeah. Maybe I can find that.
Exactly. He was basically warning the world, like, look, like if don't mess with us, we're gonna raise these tariffs. The whole point of raising these tariffs is so that there's essentially it's neutral trading across the world. If you don't mess with us, we won't mess with you. That's the goal. So again, we're witnessing.
You also have the muscle as one of the largest consumers. So there's some of that too. So you're gonna try to counter. Well, you're just hitting your own wallets as well. So this is what people don't understand. Like people have been tariffing us 30, 40, 50, 60, 80, 90%, and we haven't tariffed them. And why has that been going on? Why have we been subsidizing other nations basically all this time? Doesn't that seem like a little sketchy? Maybe, those came post 1913. You have to and then you have to institute an income tax, right? Well, you don't need that anymore with where they're going and where they're pushing things. And I think they as you've said, the subtle hints, the constant mentioning of 1913 by the orange man whose hotels are encrusted in gold, like he doesn't know hard assets or sound money. I think it's all coming together. It seems like it's all part of the plan in some ways.
100%. Like it sure does feel like that. And now there is a very famous clip of
let's play the best one.
Yeah,
there's some timestamps. There we go.
And should we view these as permanent?
That I think we're going to wait and see how this plays out.
And if countries retaliate, which some have said that they would, some have said they wanted to wait and see, what is the White House's response going to be to those countries?
Well, Caitlin, one of the messages that I'd like to get out tonight is everybody sit back, take a deep breath, don't immediately retaliate. Let's see where this goes, because if you retaliate, that's how we get escalation.
And then it becomes a full-fledged trade war, in your view?
Not a trade war, depends on the country, but remember that the history of trade is we are the deficit country. The deficit country has an advantage. They are the surplus countries. The surplus countries traditionally always lose any kind of a trade escalation.
So I mean, look, it's clear as day. I also want to show you guys this, right? Again, we're connecting the dots for you guys. Guys, please make your own decision. These are my personal opinions. These are Rustin's personal opinions. These are Opti's personal opinions. We are speculating, but we are simply Bitcoin. Tomorrow's Bitcoin news today. We've been more right. We've been more right than wrong.
One thing is, like, when you have that right, and then the actions continue, or these events take place, and then the probabilities just keep going up rather than dwindling. So it's just that type of thing.
100%. And then I want to show you guys this before we move on to the culture segment. So, of course, we know that President Trump and Bukele met. They're getting along really, really well. And remember, one of the things that Bukele said, we don't have enough time to play you guys the clip, but we will drop it in the live chat. But one of the things that Bukele said in a speech at CPAC, this is a quote from President Bukele: "You pay taxes only to uphold the illusion that you are funding the government, which you are not," right? Moving the Overton window, we're shifting it. I think people are waking up to this reality. And again, all roads lead to Bitcoin. This is the president of the first Bitcoin country. Look at how much the IMF fought El Salvador. What are they scared of? Why are they scared of Bitcoin? Why are they scared of this small Central American nation that has a GDP of $32 billion? Why are they so terrified that Bitcoin is legal tender? And the reason is simple. Bitcoin proves that money can exist without inflation. All you guys have to do is connect the dots. The answers are right in front of you.
It's very simple. It's very simple. Also, Nico, the IMF is here to enslave people, not to empower people. And that's what Bitcoin does.
Yeah, I mean, like, you know, to add to Rustin's point, it sure does feel like that. Like, why is the IMF telling a sovereign country that democratically elected their leader has the highest popularity percentage out of any president in all of the Americas? Why is the IMF dictating to a sovereign country what they can and cannot do with their money? So what Rustin is saying might sound hyperbolic on the surface, but take a look at the actions of the IMF. What is that but not servitude? What is that but not servitude, right? Again, anyways, guys, we're going to get to the culture segment. We still have a hell of a show for you guys. We're going to be right back. I want to give a shout out to our partner, HIVE Digital Technologies. As the first ever public miner, HIVE's positioned to quadruple their global footprint in 2025. And as the first with an AI strategy, HIVE continues to make moves in sustainable, high-performance computing. They consistently top the industry in Bitcoin mined per exahash, and now they're headquartered in the USA. They're lean and mean, they're green and clean, and they're changing the game. You can catch the latest buzz by following them at HIVE Digital Tech or check out their website at hivedigitaltech.com. I want to give a shout out to our partner, CoinKite. If you take your Bitcoin security seriously, you'll need the best Bitcoin hardware wallet on the market to take self-custody. That's where Cold Card comes in. The Cold Card Q is the most advanced Bitcoin signing device ever made. It's got a full keyboard, larger screen, and NFC support, making air gap signing easier than ever. It's built for power users who want the ultimate security without sacrificing usability. And if you're looking for a battle-tested, uncompromising cold storage, the Cold Card MK4 is your go-to with PSPT signing, an industrial-grade secure element, and USB-C. It's the perfect blend of security and convenience. Both devices are, of course, 100% Bitcoin only, open source, and built by Bitcoiners for Bitcoiners. Secure your Bitcoin the right way with the Cold Card Q and the MK4. Head over to coldcard.com today and use promo code SIMPLY to get 5% off anything on the store. All right, everybody. So back during the Revolutionary War, right? You know, they had muskets, right? They had muskets to stand up against tyranny, to stand up against the British crown. It's not that type of revolution. This is a peaceful revolution, the Bitcoin revolution. But what is this revolution all about? Instead of getting yourself a musket, get yourself a cold card, because that's what it's all about. It's about individuals taking self-custody of their wealth and in the process reclaiming back their financial sovereignty. This is the best Bitcoin hardware wallet in the entire industry. It's completely open source. The back is transparent, so you can see if anyone has been messing with your hardware wallet while you're not there. Guys, I highly recommend it. It has 2 secure elements. You can sign transactions with the QR code scanner, the NFC, the little tap, or with the QR code, or you could just plug it in. So get yourself a Cold Card Bitcoin hardware wallet, signing device, however you want to call it. Scan the QR code on your screen right now, or go to coinkite.com and use promo code SIMPLY, and you get 5% off anything on the CoinKite store. Anyhow, Opti, what are we going to talk about during the culture today?
Yes, thank you. So last night we went to the first BitBlockBoom dinner, and many of the conversations that we were having was, or rather a lot of people asking me, and we've been having this conversation all week on the show, is this idea of the 4-year cycle. Everyone's like, is the 4-year cycle over? Are we seeing the commodity cycle end? I know I was having a super bearish conversation with Stefan Livera, and he's like, diminishing returns, bros, and I don't know. As Rustin just said a minute ago, you know, since I have a 45 IQ, I make some, predictions. But when smarter people say the same thing that I say, that's how I know I'm right. I'm obviously confirming my own bias. But here we have Arthur Hayes, and he seems to be saying what we've been saying on the show, that we might be entering a new cycle and not the 4-year cycle. So let's hear this, and then we'll chat about it. And it also seems like on this morning that Bitcoin is decoupling from the S&P 500. It seems like we are finally seeing the decoupling happen. Obviously, we need a little more data, but let's just play the clip, and then Rustin, myself, and Nico will talk about it.
So I think that the 4-year Bitcoin halving cycle and sort of the miner profitability and how that swings over time made a lot more sense in terms of a market cycle when Bitcoin was a much smaller asset class, and I guess in crypto in general, because if Bitcoin goes, everything else follows. But now that Bitcoin and crypto are a bona fide asset class, they're talked about in every major financial network in the world. Every central bank has an opinion on it, whether it's good or whether it's bad. You have the leader of the empire of the US talking about Bitcoin and policies, and everybody's responding with that sort of stuff. So now I think Bitcoin has transitioned from this sort of technological digital bear asset into the best smoke alarm for fiat liquidity that we have globally. Previously, that role was held by gold. Yeah, gold and Bitcoin have some different properties that make them react a little bit differently to things. And now I think we have a 24/7 market. Anyone with an internet connection can access it.
Absolutely incredible. I think this is a spot on take. We've been kind of covering this from different angles, and I think Arthur is 100% correct here. And my boy CJ, I think we put it on our YouTube already. Maybe I'm missing dates here, but he's saying something similar. Now we're seeing a lot of people in or around Bitcoin, asking a very similar question: what is going on with Bitcoin? Why is it trading with traditional markets? And then we see Saylor essentially destroy Dave Portnoy this morning, or actually, sorry, it was last night, very, very clearly. And some people were saying maybe he's using ChatGPT for this, but who knows? Anyways, the response is great. So we have Dave Portnoy, and he goes, I have a dumb Bitcoin question. If the point of Bitcoin is to be independent of the US dollar and non-regulated, why does it basically trade exactly like the US stock market nowadays? Market up, Bitcoin up, market down, Bitcoin down. And then Saylor goes, Bitcoin trades like a risk asset short term because it's the most liquid, saleable, 24/7 asset on earth. In times of panic, traders sell what they can, not what they want to. Doesn't mean it's correlated long term, just means it's always available. Now, moving forward, this morning, we're also seeing something very interesting. Bitcoin priced in NASDAQ breaking back above 2021 highs, while NASDAQ and S&P 500 are getting absolutely wrecked. And Pete Rizzo dropped this morning. Yes. Bitcoin just broke its correlation with the S&P. This is not priced in. Fire emoji. And you can see some numbers here. March 12, 2020, when S&P dropped 9.51%, Bitcoin dropped 39%. And then they got the Bitcoin versus S&P ratio. Now, you can look at these charts. You can pause it. And going forward to yesterday, or rather, yesterday and today. So April 3rd, 2025, S&P 500 went down negative 4.8%. Today, or yesterday, sorry, Bitcoin went down 5.7%. And today, which is the big signal, the big kahuna in the room here, and this might be the fundamental shift we're seeing right now. S&P 500 went down negative 3%, and Bitcoin stayed pretty solid at a positive 0.77%. Obviously, a lot of Bitcoiners want the price to rip, but in the face of economic uncertainty, Bitcoin is just holding it down right now. And which is absolutely crazy. And we've been saying this the whole show. We're just giving you some more data points onto this same fundamental message. And VJ, like always, I think killed it. In the face of yet another major global equity sell-off, Bitcoin is acting extremely resilient. All of those people complaining that Bitcoin was just moving with tech stocks, here is your answer, guys. We were having this conversation I was having this conversation with people last night, and we keep kind of pointing at different directions or different data points. We obviously have no clue exactly what's going on, but from what we can speculate, from what we can see, from what we can work out from first principles, it seems like we are getting another scenario, almost like the birth of Bitcoin in 2008. 2020 was a brutal year. But now, if we're seeing one of the biggest sell-offs since 2020, and Bitcoin is reacting in a totally different way, a totally different market structure. I don't know, guys. It does seem like this, 4-year cycle might be over. Obviously, we want to see the price pump because this is the year of 2025. This is the year of the pump, and we're still all thinking, hey, I think, 200K-ish by the end of the year could play out. But maybe, we're going to see not necessarily a diminishing returns, but a longer extended cycle. And if that is true, then the cycle theory will break in a different way, and we'll see maybe a new all-time high in 2026. Yeah. Who knows what's really going on yet? We'll obviously can only see what's happening in hindsight. But in the interim, man, it does seem like Bitcoin has decoupled, at least today. It's acting very, very strong right now, even though the world is melting.
84,000 holding strong. Again, the S&P, the S&P list hit it, Rustin, hit it.
All right. So this is absolutely crazy. So 2020, you guys remember that was around the time that I first bought Bitcoin, because I was like, how is it still alive? And everyone was talking about it crashing, but I was like, I remembered it at $300. I was like, this is nuts, dude. I need to buy some of this shit. But anyway, think about that. The market sentiment around the world is completely in the shitter, and Bitcoin is still slowly chugging along. And even just to maintain where it is right now is absolutely insane, which says of that 3.5 trillion that left the S&P 500, it's likely that portions of that are already entering, or big buyers are already there now. We talk about this prolonged cycle. Ooh, that's going to depend on how long Jay Powell is going to be playing it tough over here. Once he folds, it's over. So that's where you could get
They're playing a game of chicken right now.
Oh yeah,
they're playing
100%.
They're playing a game of chicken. But I mean, Arthur. See, you played a clip of Arthur just recently, Opti. Yeah. Arthur dropped a very, very good article called "The BBC." A couple days ago. We read you guys. A lot of it isn't family friendly. A lot of the rhetoric that he used in that article, but essentially he was making the case that Powell is beholden to Bassett. Eventually
knows it.
And Bassett knows it. And essentially, we've been making the case. We picked this up actually a couple of weeks ago. We've been making the case here at Simply for a while now that essentially Trump is doing this on purpose, because without essentially the Fed going along with Trump, Trump can't fulfill his agenda. He needs the money printer. But right now, essentially, Powell has the cover of, inflation, to justify the rates remaining high, right? So essentially, what we were speculating,
the last two readings has come down.
Exactly. So like what we've been making the case is like, look, like Trump is essentially forcing the hand of the Fed. But it's really interesting that the Fed came out with that statement earlier on saying, listen, the tariffs are going to cause inflation. Now, is that just grandstanding? Is Powell trying to essentially, make it seem that, the Fed remains independent, but in reality, the Fed is going to act something out differently? That could be the case. I think that's what Arthur believes, but we shall see. I mean, but it's crazy that there's so much politics involved.
It's driving even more attention to the fact that they are politicized and aren't independent indirectly.
It's a politicized institution, and again, they have bankrolled,
and it's not federal and has no reserves.
There we go. Let's continue moving this Overton window. But yes, the TLDR from today's show. All right, the TLDR from today's show is, yes, we got a pro-Bitcoin president in the White House. Now we need a Bitcoiner in the White House. And when that Bitcoiner in the White House, the main goal of that Bitcoiner should be to Andrew Jackson 2.0 and the Federal Reserve. That's what we need to do.
Let's go. I miss Nico Jones.
You know whose bust hangs in the orange man's office?
This is true. If you know, you know. What? Hold on. All right, keep going, because I do kind of want to pivot a little bit.
I mean, there we go. Like, okay, so do you think he just has that painting there for shits and giggles? Like, it's on purpose. Like, guys, there's he name dropped the year 1913, and what was it that he said? He was like, for reasons
unknown to mankind.
Of course, we all know what happened in Jekyll Island. What happened in 1913? What happened, everybody?
Go read The Creature from Jekyll Island, and you'll know exactly what happened in 1913.
Why have the two largest world wars in the world? Why have they happened since the establishment of the Federal Reserve? Why are all these things happening? Again, I think a lot of people have known this for a while. I mean, some people, Ron Paul, who is the author of The Creature from Jekyll Island?
G. Edward Griffin.
Yeah. And people like Rustin and Goldbugs, Larry Lepard. Also, there's been a lot of people that have known this for a while, right?
45 IQ, 18-year-old Opti.
We now have the solution. We now have the solution to replace this, right? There was this very famous Thomas Sowell video where they ask him, like, so, when we get rid of the Federal Reserve, like, what do we replace it with? And Thomas Sowell was like, very wisely said, he's like, when you cut out a cancer, you don't replace it, right? So again, I'm moving the Overton window. Yes, great. We got a pro-Bitcoin president. He's done so good. Repeal of SAB 121. End of Operation Choke Point 2.0. Free Ross Ulbricht. Strategic Bitcoin Reserve. But now we need a Bitcoiner in the White House with the goal of ending central banking. We end central banking. We free the human race. It's simple as that. Anyways, we hit 250 likes, guys. Smash that like button. We're getting close to the end of the show, guys. We're going to be live streaming all of BitBlockBoom tomorrow. We're going to be at the news desk, me and Opti, from very, very early in the morning, 9 a.m. Central Time. We're going to be live streaming all the awesome panels. How many? What people do we have on tomorrow? We have Marty Bent. We have Larry Lepard.
We have Dante. We have
Dante,
James
Parker
Lavish.
Lewis. Yeah, we got. It's going to be an incredible conference. You guys definitely don't want to miss it. But in case you guys couldn't make it to Dallas for this year's BitBlockBoom, I do want to give a shout out to the Bitcoin conference that's coming up in Las Vegas, Nevada at the Venetian Hotel, May 27th through the 29th. The entire Simply Bitcoin crew is going to be there. In fact, we're going to have a booth on the floor, and we're going to be streaming. Hopefully, if we get the internet figured out, it's going to be absolutely awesome.
Moving up, boys.
Hope to see you guys in Vegas, Las Vegas, Nevada, at the biggest Bitcoin conference of the year. I call it the Bitcoin Super Bowl. May 27th through the 29th of 2025 at the Venetian Hotel, Las Vegas, Nevada. Get your tickets quickly before the prices go up, and they do go up. So scan the QR code on your screen or search Bitcoin 2025 on Google. And make sure to use promo code SIMPLY. Again, promo code SIMPLY to get 10% off your tickets to the largest and biggest Bitcoin conference in the world, Bitcoin 2025. Anyways, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed today's show. I'm your host, Nico, joining us today in the co-host seat, Optimus Fields, and our special guest in the house, the GOAT, the legend, the man, the myth, the legend, Rustin in the house. Smash that like button.
Double
We're
legend.
Simply Bitcoin Live, and we'll see you on Monday for a brand new episode. Send it!
Today's episode was brought to you by BitcoinWell.com, a Bitcoin-only platform on a mission to enable financial independence.